I'm excited to chat with you because you have this incredible new uplifting album, Brand New Start Out, and it comes out of a tragic time for you. But let's start at the beginning. How would you describe your sound?
Hmm. I would certainly always say there's been an uplifting quality to my music. It's taken many different forms in terms of the style or the sound, but there's always usually a hopeful, most people that would listen, they would always say, I love how there's like a hopeful message in a lot of your songs, or there's always like, even if it's a struggle or a challenging thing, there's hope to it. And I'd say the other quality is usually because I'm a drummer first and foremost, a lot of times rhythm or a quality that you can dance to. Actually, on the album, I played drums on all the songs.
Wow, I just assumed you were a guitarist. Just
So
there's so
funny.
many pictures of you in front of a guitar.
I know exactly, exactly. Yeah, I haven't really been playing drums as regularly lately because most of the time I am gigging and I'm singing and performing, or I'm here in the studio doing what I'm doing. So I don't get to play drums that often. But most people, when they see me on the drums, they'll just that's like that's my usual spot where I can just.
Who are some of your musical influences?
Well, right at the top would definitely have to be my dad because I was actually born to one of his songs playing in the delivery room. He made an album just before I was born, and one of the songs was my mom asked him to play it. And then I grew up listening to his music on my little cassette Walkman as a kid religiously. He had one that he did that was his, a couple that were from like bands he had been in, and I just loved all of it. So he's right at the top. And he actually even did lead guitar on one of the songs in the album, the song Find Me. I had him come in and do the lead guitar on it, just that little extra homage to him. And then from there, it was like Joe Satriani, who's another phenomenal guitar guy. And then, funny enough, my top two favorite bands would have to be like Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park. It's just pretty funny to say, but that when I was younger, they were huge for me. And then for this album specifically, I was really trying to homage to a lot of my influences like John Mayer, Third Eye Blind, um, Jack Johnson, Jason Mraz, a lot of that like 90s, 2000s.
More
So,
positive vibes.
yes, that was a huge because after my accident, I was really just trying to reconnect with a lot. So I was watching movies like Legally Blonde and watching Friends and Seinfeld or like Cinderella Story. A lot of these movies or shows that I loved when I was younger or appreciated, and so many of the soundtracks are part of what make them such great movies, and a lot of them are Third Eye Blind, Jimmy Eat World, those kind of artists.
You have brand new start out here right now, and it comes from a traumatic event, but is there something about the experience that really made you want to start living in a more positive way, or was there something about just this time in your life where you're like, I have to connect with a more positive side and start making uh and at least, make some more uplifting tracks?
It's a great question. Before the accident, I was still very much because I have a lot of different projects. Like I'd say I've made a lot of different albums, some of which haven't been released, some of them I've released rough versions of. And it would always be like, well, which one feels like it's me? And then after the accident, I think the biggest thing was I just was so craving a feeling of safety. And I feel like the accident really, more than anything, awakened me to like this still very deep seated fear from childhood trauma, things like that, of just not really feeling safe in myself. And more often than not, who I naturally am is a joyful, kind, funny, silly, playful person. But for some reason, there was always this inner judgment about that part of myself. There was always some sort of a, in the background feeling of like, is there something wrong with me because I'm this way? Most people don't seem to be this way, or some people seem like they look at me weird, or they might be judging me or something. So before the accident, I still was sort of like I'd be like who I am, but then I would still like kind of like I'd leave an event or something like that and be like, was that like wrong? Was that like should I not have been that way? Is there something? So once the accident happened, not only did I want to try to find a way to honor and love that part of myself more and accept like no, that really is who you are, but also to create an album or a collection of songs that maybe captured that feeling, almost like a journal or a timestamp of like this honors that part of you that, you know, and that's why some of the songs they're fun. They're sort of there's an innocence to them. Some of the lyrics and things, like one of the songs In the Love, like a lot of it, when if you listen to it on the surface, it sounds very like almost like cheesy in a way. But if you really delve into it and get to it, you realize it comes from like the real message of it is I'm almost asking myself, the world, the universe, like, can we just stay in this good feeling space? Is that okay?
Well, it's interesting you say that because one of my favorite tracks is Cry Your Eyes Out. And I think it's because it encourages, this space of safety and solace. We've all had a traumatic few years, but, amongst the wonderful positive vibes, you do encourage people to be vulnerable and at least express what's been heavy on you. So that's a personal favorite track of mine. Do you have any personal favorite tracks, or are they all just sort of a part of each experience you had during this time in your life?
Wonderful question, Jamie. I appreciate that. My personal favorite, funny enough, is Hey There, Missy, which is the first song on the album. Just because that one, more than any of them, instantly gives me flashbacks to when I was younger. One of the main highlights, especially of summer for me, was my mom and I either taking trips to the beach, either with my friends from school or friends in the neighborhood or the family, my aunts and uncles. We would always like go to, there's a Zuma beach out here in Malibu, and go spend our time there. And my mom made these amazing mixtapes with kids. So my dad was a musician and I watched him, but then my mom on the other side just had amazing taste. So she would play Earth, Wind, and Fire around the house. She would play John Mayer around the house. When I was a kid, I'd be like, Mom, I got to get this Deftones CD or I got to get this Limp Bizkit. She'd be like, I think I already have it. And I'd go into the thing. I'm like, and one of the mixtapes she made, it had Oasis, Alice in Chains, Bush, um, Train, Drops of Jupiter. Like it had all these amazing songs on it. So Hey There, Missy for me, just for some reason, gives me like nostalgia about that moment in time, which I think is part of what I wanted to capture with this album was like that moment. It was like 10 to 12, like when I was 10 years old to 12 years old. But then Cry Your Eyes Out is proving to be this amazingly revelatory song for me because that was the last song that was made for the album. And really, it was Michael Blue who produced the project with me, who he just saw the title on a list of like I had my list of potential songs. We had sort of picked out the ones that we thought these are all good. But he kept gravitating. He's like, what's this Cry Your Eyes Out thing? Funny enough, it was just the chorus. That's all I had for it. I just had the "It's okay to cry," yeah, yeah. But I was imagining this almost like a happy, feel good like song. Like it's really funny to say that that's where I wanted to go with it. And he was like, "What if we made it more like let's put it on like the piano and like make it like a ballad and really use this as a chance to make like a vulnerable song." And I kind of let him take the lead. So that song really, I owe so much to Michael for the birth and fruition of that song because he was the one who saw it. He got so excited. It was really his arrangement. He did the strings, all that stuff. And he would say, this one feels so special, Trev, because you've always been that person who would let people know, like, hey, like, I'm here for you. I can hold space for you. If you're going through a tough time, you sit with people, you let them share what they're going through, you don't judge them. Oh my gosh, maybe. Well,
That's real.
tell me about this. Tell me.
Maybe that's why it resonates with me so much. I literally did it last night to a friend of mine. I was like, you did it for me. I'm going to do it for you. If you're having a tough time, call me, text me, DM me. I have all these. I am here.
I love that. That's so cool. And it's so cool to hear that.
These are themes, that you think might resonate with you, but you don't realize necessarily they might resonate with so many other people. Um, but it's wonderful. It's a beautiful, it's a thoughtful track as well. And I'm interested in asking you. Actually, you mentioned that Michael was a producer on this, but you're a music producer as well. Was it important for you to bounce your own ideas off of someone else to get a second opinion, or is this just someone who you really trust and you're like, okay, I know what I'm loving about this. Let's see if he can give me one up on what I think I'm doing even better.
Great question. I love this, Jamie. Thank you again so much for having me
Of
on here. This is
course.
great. You're like my first maybe official sort of interview in this capacity. So this is awesome.
Wow. It
I'm
seems
getting
like I'm doing a good job.
I'm getting the exclusive with Starry Mag.
There you go.
um, Funny enough, I've been self-producing for years and I produced other artists and I've done all that pretty much usually either out of like my bedroom or funny enough, I met Michael back in 2019 and he let me start working out of one of the studios here. So this is one of the main rooms that we've been working in. This is at Revolver Recordings, which is Michael Blue's beautiful studio. And Michael's credits, if you don't know, include he did Colby Caillat's first album, which had Bubbly on it. Starts in my toes, makes me crinkle my nails, and he also did her duet with Jason Mraz, or at least worked on that with Lucky, which was like a Grammy winning song. And so he's always been this guy who I guess really would try to create a space for young, like he loved development and finding artists or untapped talent or things like that. And so when I showed up, I played him some of my songs and he's like, "You're great. Would you like to come in and work with some of my artists and what we're doing?" Gave me a space. I was living out of the studio for a moment. I was like sleeping on the floor basically, and just like because I was so like just wanted to be in the space and just absorb this and be a part of what's going on. And I learned a lot from him about like Pro Tools and things that I work on. So, but I was still always doing stuff myself. Basically, I was always like, I'm producing myself. I'm doing this. And then after the accident, I'd already been like, I basically was like, I don't feel like I even want to go near my computer. I don't want to go near that side of it. And slowly, as I was healing, the songs were coming to mind. I was spending time almost meditating or sitting outside. And this idea of like, what if I just really tried to do an album that was a more organic sounding album? And I right away thought if there was anyone I was going to do this with, it'd probably be Michael. Like he'd be the perfect person to do this with. And then I reached out. He said, yes, let's do it. I brought the songs in. And it really was because I felt like I'd love to try to have someone else to, like you said, to bounce this off of or to get feedback on this or to get the, and it's such a gift because if it had been up to me, truthfully, I don't think I would have even like Cry Your Eyes Out would not be what it is without Michael and without also Dalton Sear, who was the other main co-writer on it. He actually was the one who played the piano on it. And he also wrote a lot of the, or came up with the initial outline for a lot of the verse parts, like the sort of lyrical base of like, it's still so hard to know. A lot of that was Dalton. So it would not be what it is without their contribution. And the funniest thing is, I personally, it's a weird thing to say this. For me, on the album, it's not necessarily one of the songs I go to listen to a lot. And I remember there's a story about Seal, the artist Seal, with his song Kiss from a Rose. Apparently, he didn't want that song to even be on the album. Like, he didn't think it was like, he's like, it's not really my vibe. It's not really what I'm about. I don't know if it fits me. And it's like his career defining song. And so like it's this really funny thing that I guess some artists I've heard that too, like Fleetwood Mac, Go Your Own Way. They didn't want that to be the single. I think Macy Gray, funny enough, she didn't want I Try to be the single, which is her biggest song. So I feel like maybe artists, there's a level of we don't always have an objective view about what we bring that really resonates with people. And I think it still also represents on some level the part of me that is still overcoming my own self-judgment about like feeling vulnerable enough to cry or to be that, like I guess in a way I've always been that for other people and it hasn't always felt like I've had people to be that way with me. The one person more than anyone would be my mom. She's that person. Like when we were working on that song, I had a few other incidences that I guess we can just say correlate to mental emotional health where it just challenges things where I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay. I don't know if where I am is okay. I feel like I should be farther along in my life. I totally thought I'd be somewhere else by now. And these moments of like just hugging her and being able to cry with her, that's what I was tuning into when we made this song. And I thought, okay, like if this could be how my mom was for me, if I can represent that or be a voice of that for other people or give other people like yourself who are that way for their friends a way to embody what they do, what a gift that would be. Because that's at the end of the day, the real hope to make music that truly can help heal or help comfort people.
It sounds like it was a labor of love, but was there a track maybe that challenged you more than another? Obviously, Michael's giving you something to bounce off of and maybe challenging your initial thoughts on a song, but was there one that maybe was harder for you to emotionally process or get out? Maybe it was Cry Your Eyes Out.
So this is I love to make a joke about this, and Michael, I can't wait to at some point. And so anyway, when we were doing the song, at first we were doing it. We had done the piano, and I was very much on board. Like, yeah, like I'm just kind of going with it. This is cool. I didn't expect this. Why not? But then, like, we kind of had a system in place that we were going through, like, kind of rough doing each song on the album. And then suddenly, like, Cry Your Eyes Out, like, the whole day, he was just like obsessing over this song. And he was like, all right, we did the piano. Okay, let's get in, let's do the vocals. And I was throwing ideas out for the verses, and he was kind of shooting them down. Or he was saying, like, I think we should go with Dalton's idea. I think we should go with Dalton's idea. And I was eventually, I literally got to a place where I was like, man, screw this song. It's not even my song anymore. I was like so upset in a weird way. I felt like I was like a little bit of a brat. I was being a bit of a brat in the space. Like, and there was a point where I even sat in the studio, and there was so much emotional stuff coming up in me. And I looked at him and Dalton and said, I don't know if this is really like, maybe Dalton, maybe you should use this song. It should be on your album. I don't know if this is really like a song for me, or this is really my song. I mean, I guess so. I'll just say that the song itself was this, like, it was hard for me to trust that this was really my song, because I imagined I didn't feel like my voice maybe was strong enough, or I just had certain insecurities about the song. And so the final test was we sort of wrapped it, and Michael was like, listen, just take it home, sit with it, see how you feel about it. And I took it to my mom, and I said, listen, I want to just play you. This is what we worked on today. I don't know how I feel about it. And I played it, and she almost started like tearing up as she was listening. She's like, this is like a great song, Trev. Like, yes, this is good. And that gave me at least enough to be like, okay, like I'll surrender to this. It's like this whole album was like a test of surrender for me, like surrendering, that, like, letting Michael take some of the lead, even with some of the other songs like Sunkissed and others. He made some arrangement suggestions where we like cut parts out. Usually I'm the one that does that in sessions. I'm the one that's like, hey, maybe we should like get rid of this. And so when he did it, I'd have these weird moments like, is this where I'm supposed to like stand up for myself and say, no, this is how I want the
I mean,
song?
you're a
And this,
music producer, and that's what my whole question was: is like, how much do you relinquish control for your own music, and how much do you let someone else push you to be either a better artist or maybe influence the question the songs that you make? There's a fine line, and Trevin, as a music producer and as an artist yourself, you walk it very, very, very well. It seems, and maybe it's the trust you've built with these people. Maybe it's that you do feel you can be completely vulnerable with someone, and you're like, you know what, that is a great perspective, or you know what, I'm going to go with my gut at this point. And thank you so much for your input, but really 100%, if you don't mind. But these are people you have to have in your life, and it sounds like you have those people. Maybe you didn't realize it. That's what you're also saying as well? Maybe you didn't realize you had these people in your life as well. So it's great that you at least had them as a sounding board and a place of trust to go back to and say, you know what, this is my sound. I do want it. Could you help me? Or maybe thank you. You did help me, and you made me realize I like it the way it is.
very, very beautifully said, Jamie. Beautifully said. That really, I will say too, because I've spent a lot of years in forms of therapy or forms of trying, like, building self-awareness. I was drawn to a lot of people like Eckhart Tolle, if you know who that is, wrote like The Power of Now, or Wayne Dyer. There's, a lot of those people who are all about just how to live more in harmony with yourself and your purpose and the world. And I think that helped me be able to be in this situation. And I could see throughout the process of making the whole album so many moments where in the past I might have been triggered, and I still was. There were plenty of moments. There was a moment we were working on Cry Your Eyes Out, and Michael was doing something, and I'd have this inner like, should I like fight and say like, no, I don't want it that way? Or should I be okay and say like, go ahead and do what you're doing and leave it? And right at that moment, the line of the song, "It's okay to need some help," was playing. And I look at the clock and it's 2:22, and I go, and I almost started crying right then. I'm like, okay, you mean I can take my hands off? Okay. Like there's like,
It's a sign.
it's
There are
right. I'm
signs
like,
in the
oh,
world.
yes. I feel like little winks and nudges, like it's okay. Cause I think anyone who's gone through any form of a trauma, it definitely creates a sense of disconnection and a sense of like it's up to me. Like I have to have my hands on the wheel at all times, and I have to make. And I idolize a lot of those people, right? So many of the people we might look up to, like a an Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you've watched his new Arnold docu series that's on Netflix, which is great, by the way, or a Tony Robbins. There's a lot of these people that we can look to. I'd look at even entrepreneurs, and they're the kind of classic male version of like, I do like they seem to have an attitude of like, this is how I want it and this is how it needs to be. And so I have this inner like, do I need to be more like that? Or is it okay to say, you know what, let me see what you're gonna do. Let me like, yeah, let's leave some space. Why not? Let that. And once again, like this song that's the most resonant, it's getting international airplay on this radio network, Ubia FM. And they're the owner is calling me like, dude, this is like a hit song. What are you doing? Like, this is like the best song on the album. And I'm just like, I guess I'm just catching up. I guess I'm just catching up to realizing what the people are saying.
I know. Maybe we'll talk about this in a little bit, but going back to the album, what do you hope lingers with people who do explore Brand New Start?
Hmm. The birth of this album came from a lot of these performances I was doing at restaurants and resorts and places like that. And one of the things that stood out to me was a lot of the people that would gravitate towards me were like young families, kids, people like that, or or I'd see like moms or whatever that was, families. And I just felt like that's what made me want to also create this album, is like I want to create something for that demographic in a way, if you can say that. And so I feel like for anyone with this album, it's both meant to be a space to connect with others, and it's also, I feel like, meant to be, because I'm a SoCal, a kid of Southern California, and grew up going to the beach, and not everyone has access to that. I loved the idea of creating an album that is almost like a sonic uh like hologram, or you know what I mean, like it's like a sonic image of that place, so that anyone anywhere can tune in and listen to it. I had someone that's like a dear friend of mine, or a family friend, told me her niece listens to my music when she's traveling because she gets high anxiety, and it helps calm her down. And I love the idea that my music could do that for anyone. That would be the ultimate goal. So it's a place for that. It's for people to also be able to find their own brand new start in a song like Brand New Start, when it says like, I was always working on myself. I've had a few people say that line really resonates, because we live in this culture now that it's all about self-development, and it's all about pushing, and it's all about like the hustle and the grind. And it's like, all that does sometimes, from my experience, is just make it like on some level we're judging ourselves nonstop. And that never really brings forth what we're actually looking for.
I know you have a lot of new music you're also working on for others as well. You touched on it a bit with me earlier, but you'll be in the studio again here with Macy Gray and some other new artists. I'm not sure if you're able to officially tease any other collabs you have coming up.
Yeah, the Macy Gray one I'm really excited about, because funny enough, so I met her through Michael. This is a whole nother thing. Like there's so much that all happened at once. But my family played her first album all the time at every pool party, family gathering. Macy Gray's On How Life Is album was playing at some point. And then before we started working on my album, Michael says, by the way, Macy Gray is going to be here rehearsing with her band if you want to come in. And I was like, what? Macy Gray? Like, what is she doing there? Like, where did this come from? And then slowly over time, she would be in the studio while we were working on my album other times. And I would just kind of like hang out with her, just try to like, and I would be freestyling ideas. She's like, oh, that's hot. Like, what's that? And I'm like, if you want it, man, it could be free. He's like, oh man, we got to record that. And now here we are getting ready to work on this potentially new album of songs for her, which I'm very excited about. So that's one. I'm also bringing in this amazing artist named AY. He was on the X Factor years ago. He is one of the UN 17 global elected youth leaders, which basically means 17 young people who are initiating or leading initiatives to help address global issues. And his main thing is that he's been doing solar powered concerts for like the last 10 years. We're using clean energy. So he flew me out to Penn State to do some gigs, and from there we were going over a bunch of his songs, and I just found one that I thought, what if we like did this song? This could be like a great single for you, and it's called Light Up the World. So I think we're going to be coming in to work on that in August. Very, very excited about that. And then there's a few others. There's an artist named Daria who's from the UK. We did a couple of songs when she came out here back in November, and she's excited. I'm excited about them. They're really got a cool sound. I think she's in the middle of like renegotiating like her stuff with her label or whatever that is, or something that's going on. But I'd love the idea that that's coming out, and potentially a song I did with this amazing artist I also met through Michael named Drew Wren. We did this back in maybe 2019, but it's a song called Walk on Water. I think she might be actually releasing that sometime before the end of the year. And she's like one of those, like she's like a modern day Mariah, or like, she has one of those voices that like an Ariana Grande. It's just that like can do so much. And the song is another very hopeful, like uplifting, powerful song.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the incredibly beautiful music that you do make?
Mm. More than anything, it would be a thank you that you are fans, and thank you for appreciating what I do and supporting it. Thank you to everyone who's ever seen me at a cover gig and came up and said, "You're awesome, keep doing it." Or anyone who's ever said, like, "I love your music." Or there's an amazing fan of mine named Ashleisha who lives in India, who somehow found my stuff, and she like loves my album, and she's like, "Oh, hey there, Missy's my favorite song." And just things like that are still like really hard to wrap my head around, that there's someone on the other side of the world that loves my music and is listening to it. And so more than anything, thank you guys so much. And I'm very excited for you to be on this journey with me and see where we will go from here, because it's only the beginning. There's so much more to do, so many more places to go.